Animal Care and Control Advisory Board meeting for Monday, July the 13th. Call to order and welcome. Public comments limited to 3 minutes, and I'm not seeing any public here, so I'm going to assume we can pass over that. Presentation and approval of the previous meetings, minutes. Everyone's had a chance to look at those we didn't have a July 4th meeting, so everyone's had a chance to look at those. I'd like to have a motion. Do we give a motion?
I move that we accept.
Have to have a verbal motion, not just a hand gesture. Carrie seconds that. All in favor? Okay. Passed unanimous. Our business tonight is a spay and neuter ordinance progress, and we're all kind of at a standstill with that. We had a public hearing, and then it kind of went away, kind of stopped. And so I'm going to be meeting either via personally or phone conversations with all of our commissioners this next week to find out, we did all the steps up to a public meeting, and then, what was their feeling from the public meeting, because I saw that we had 3 that were against it and everyone else was in favor of spay and neuter that came out to the public hearing. So I would like to know what they would like us to do to present this to them so that it's favorable, or if it's back to the drawing board, that it wasn't favorable, or where we need to go with it. There's been no changes made, to my knowledge. Is that correct, Eric? So we just kind of have to go from there. I do know that the board discussed a fee schedule for an unaltered animal permit, as asked to do so by the Board of Commissioners. The fee schedule for an unaltered animal permit was $100 per animal that shall be good for the duration of the rabies vaccine for animals that met the criteria set forth in section 12-1006, and the fee shall be $25 per animal and shall be good for the duration of the rabies vaccine. That was on March the 3rd, 2015. I'm going to resend this back through because I noticed that was not actually on the ordinance, and we were asked to do that, so I'm going to send that back through. We also were asked to look at getting unaltered, non-commercial kennel license, unaltered permits, and I had pulled several of them off of the internet, and possibly we should probably have a workshop to maybe work on that, to get an unaltered permit together. So when we get through, we'll look at our schedules and see. It would be a really quick meeting. We might have other things that we might need to discuss on there also, once I find out if there are other things that we need to discuss as far as the spay and neuter ordinance goes.
I believe we're going to need those documents in order to move forward with the ordinance.
Okay, so we need to do it soon so that we can
We'll
move
need to do
forward.
it soon.
Okay.
If that's the case, I did speak to the commissioners prior to the meeting, and they are continuing to read and investigate the ordinance, and not ready yet to make a definitive decision.
Okay, awesome, thank you, Eric. Okay, so we can't go into any kind of business as far as the spay and neuter ordinance goes. Is there any questions or anything that anyone would like as an input to be on public record concerning the spay and neuter ordinance?
That anybody that's asking for the unaltered permit that's not a commercial breeder, that they basically get a group discount, somebody that's doing everything right, not somebody that's a backyard breeder breeding out of there.
Well, I think from our actual animal ordinance that is here, that there are several different variations, persons who keep, remember the kennel, the UKC, AKC, CFC, all of those kind of things. So they don't fall in there under that, from my understanding, with everything. So it would just be people that actually want to continue to breed their dogs and go against the ordinance. Is that an unaltered permit is what we had stated?
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, that it would be. Okay. Is there any other discussion or clarification or questions?
Oh, I did have a question.
Okay.
Just on the progress with the commissioners, if we change anything, and you might have already mentioned this, in the ordinance, like add the fee schedule, or even change what we're gonna call it, because I know that's been, considered as well. Does that mean we have to go through the process again and do the 2 public hearings again?
So we should have to do that unless there's a major change.
Okay.
We may need to let the county attorney review it if any major edits are done. But I don't believe that the public hearing would be required if we make some small edits. language.
On section 6-1007, if you look at D, the cost of the animal permit shall be fixed by the Board of Commissioners. And so we sent it to them to fix it, and they came back and said for us to give them a fee schedule that we thought. So that's what we did.
Okay.
So at this point, I guess it's in their hands, and like I said, hopefully we'll have some meetings and some good, I would like to hear if this is, what you're against in this. Tell us what we need to do, tell us what we need to fix. What do we need to do? Do we need to get education out to the public? Where do we need to go to try and get the support to pass a mandatory spay and neuter ordinance in Spalding County?
I have a suggestion that would solve some of our problems.
Okay.
An anonymous person said that maybe we should change the word mandatory to nuisance. And it might help the situation, because those gentlemen in the back at the last public hearing, that's pretty much what they, yeah, they heard that word mandatory, and,
Turns them off.
yeah.
Sterilization requirement, isn't it?
So if you use the word nuisance instead of mandatory.
Great question there.
No, it's sterilization requirements. It's not a mandatory sterilization, a mandatory spay and neuter. It's sterilization requirements is what it says right here.
Right, what he's
Section-
referring to is that way when it's out to the public, that they understand this is gonna be for nuisance animals. It's
Okay.
not where people
Not
like to
actual
believe that we're
changing it,
going
okay.
door to door
Yeah,
and seeing if your animal's fixed.
Right.
This is gonna be, if we get called on your animal already violating the county ordinance, we're gonna go respond to the call, the animal violating the ordinance, and then while we're out there, we're gonna see if the animal, since, we do have a legitimate complaint on it, has been fixed.
I think that that's by and large the biggest problem with the public information, lack of information on it, is people do think that we're going door to door.
No.
To enforce it, they don't understand that it's a complaint driven.
And that's why
ordinance.
maybe if we just said, nuisance,
Okay.
spay and neuter ordinance,
Mhm.
because, most people, I believe, would know what a nuisance is.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't think it's mandatory that, my dog don't ever do anything, I still gotta get fixed. No, that's not what it means, it's a nuisance.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
edit.
Yeah, I do too. I really do.
I'll give that person credit when I see him.
Especially if that would be helpful.
Yes.
Is that something I would need to discuss with them whenever, or how,
Well,
to might make any changes at this point? or-
yeah, I mean, it might be beneficial for you, the chairman, to maybe meet with the chairman of the board of commissioners, and maybe you two to sit and talk and
Discuss,
have
okay.
a conversation about it.
Okay, and just bring that up also, any ideas that could possibly, okay. all right.
Or Ms. Hallbaker has sort of inside scoop, she may know somebody she can talk to as well. Something worth mentioning is, we have been in contact with, or I have been in contact with the Humane Society, and they have agreed to assist us with seeking out some grants for spay and neuter as well. And I feel fairly excited. I spoke to the president of the Georgia, the director of Georgia Humane Society out of the Atlanta area, and they were very willing to come down and provide some presentation to our group, and provide us some insight into how we could obtain some local and state and even our federal grants available to our community that we so far have not been able to receive. And again, I think that's part of it too, is that for folks there, they are put off by the potential cost. And if we can provide some low cost and no cost option for folks to spay and neuter, that would be really, really excellent.
Yeah, because like you said, there's a lot of people who do not know. One of the gentlemen that was here that night was telling me what he had paid to spay and neuter his animal, and if he'd have just known what
Right.
the difference was, yeah, I think more people would have been out to do that, and a lot of education, because we need to have a lot of community support to overcome the pet overpopulation problem, but we have to educate people about the sterilization laws and even the difference between what spay and neuter is, because some people don't understand. They'll call me and say they want to neuter their female dog, so that we need to really work on the education aspect of it that a lot of people do not know. They do not know. Okay.
Yeah, I think that a reward system, we don't want it to sound like a punishment system, but a reward. So if we could provide somehow a no cost or low cost to people with, and annual salaries of such and such. We could offer them a spay or neuter, and then if they didn't do it, then
Right.
maybe there would be a fine involved in that, but.
After speaking with Macon-Bibb County and Richmond, and Macon-Bibb is up and running right now, they're under, there's no more grace period, they're up and they're running. What they do is they go out and, say Brent goes out and he's like, your animals are supposed to be spayed and neutered, whatever the situation is. I think they're operating a little bit differently than we are. They're actually spay and neuter. They're not going if there's some other problem. They're hot and heavy on the spay and neuter right now. And they'll go out and say, you're breaking this ordinance, and they go ahead and they write a ticket, but they also give them a piece of paper that says, here is all the costs and all the numbers, and if the person says they can't afford any of this, then here is the number, because we're grant with PetSmart, under charities, PetSmart charities under the grants, and they can get that, so there's no excuse for them not to do it, other than they just don't want to. So at the end of the 30 days, they either present you with proof that they've got a spay and neuter, or they've got an appointment, they throw the ticket away, if not, they go to court. And it's $500, just so you know, $500. They have fixed it with their county
didn't know
system,
that.
and so there's almost a no-fill system. He says that what did he say, 87% compliance when I spoke to him, 87%
Wow.
compliance.
That's impressive.
So,
So because they offered a solution instead
yes,
of just a ticket. They
exactly.
offered a solution to it.
they
I like
offered a
that.
solution, there's no way that you cannot do this. It's just, it's either very, very low cost or even free versus a
I like that.
$500 fine.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
So,
excellent.
Money talks.
yeah, so I would really be interested in speaking with them and us getting, if they have to, partner with a nonprofit or anything, because a lot of times they do have to do that. Because we did fill out a grant for 400 animals, help spay neuter clinic. Remember the little piece of paper that we had to sign saying euthanization records and stuff? And we're waiting to hear back from that, because what would happen was Happy Tools would provide 400 rabies vaccinations. So to do that, which was about $4,000. So we agreed to do that. If you can help us get 400 animals fixed in this county, then we will provide the rabies vaccinations. So we're waiting to hear if PetSmart says that's okay or not.
That's
100 of
awesome.
each animal, and there's a start for the low income or the no, spay and neuter. So, okay. Is there any more discussion on the spay and neuter ordinance progress or anything? So we'll try to get a workshop in the next couple of weeks. Would that work with everybody? Get together
Yes.
afterwards? Okay. All right. Animal shelter and splost. I believe that we are going to be part of the splost, and we got
185.
185.
Wow.
Which had asked for 1.2 mil on the proposal A, which of course was the,
It's the building, the new section.
the
for
new
dogs
section on the
and
outside. Sorry, I kind of got
renovating
my little notes here.
Building
it's
the new section for
renovations.
dogs.
Yeah,
then
and renovation, the old
Uh-huh.
shelter. It's not the actual, the new
It's the
shelter.
Lower
So-
cost of the two options.
So, yeah, because the proposal B was 2.1 to do an actual brand new shelter, and the proposal A was 1.2 mil to do the renovations to, like he said, to the existing dog kennels or do the new dog kennels in the back, and then take the old existing shelter and turn it into the other options we had talked about for the cats in quarantine and those kind of things. So that's wonderful. That's
It
wonderful.
is.
So now the work
It's
begins.
wonderful if
It passes.
it passes.
Well, now, it's going to pass, okay? We're going to have the positivity that's
So
going to pass.
we have to make sure it passes.
Yes. And was speaking with Eric a few minutes ago. I'm sure very soon they'll have a place where you can sign up to be on the SWAS committee, and the more the merrier, okay? Because we do need, there are a lot of activists, just like we are, that are for this spay and neuter, and for the shelter, and for those type of things, dog lovers, animal lovers, people with safety, there's a lot of different things there. And we need to convince them all to come out and vote for the SWAS. So, I'd love to see every one of you on there, is what I'd like to see. We lived at the fair last year, didn't we, David?
Yep. And half the
Just
people
talk,
were
talk,
from
talk,
Spalding County.
yeah, I figured that out really quick like that, that 50% of the people that go to the fair are not from Spalding County.
Oh.
So there's our SPOSS money. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They just come over to Spalding County to spend their money. So, anyhow, it's like, do you know anybody that's in there? Can you pass this brochure on your grandmother? Who, let her know to vote. So, what do we need to do with that? So that is up and coming, and so we do have a lot of work, and I'm sure that during our workshop, we'll also be bringing up some ideas to get out. I know last year we did do Rotary clubs and Rotary Club breakfasts and Kiwanis clubs and town halls. We did all of that, all of those things last year. I think we're getting a little bit bigger head start. And we only had 6 weeks last time. And when is the vote this November? Yeah, so we've got a little bit more time this go around to do that. So, yay, wonderful presentation, Daryl.
Good job, Barry.
Good job, good job, Daryl.
Slow clap.
So, now we just gotta make it happen.
We have to.
If not, we're gonna be washing a lot of cars for till the day we die. Okay, just trying to get you. Candy bars, donuts, whatever we have to do. Okay, now this is another little one. We have the state laws and county laws concerning hoarding situations. And all of you have a nice little piece of paper in front of you. And this is, Eric, do you kind of want to talk on that real quick? Liz?
Sure, yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
since you sent it out.
And Brent, you may be able to speak to it as much as I can, honestly.
Okay.
But we have been in contact with a family off of Mentor Road, who we have been working with for probably a couple months now. But the situation has escalated over the course of the past few weeks. It's gotten progressively worse. And Officer Jordan Andrews was the, I guess, investigating officer who went out and first worked with Miss Collier, who owns the property, or who's a renter on the property, actually, with her family. And I know some of you guys have been out there. I know I spoke to Miss Hallbaker last Thursday night and have seen the deplorable conditions that are there on Mentor Road. The great thing is we've had some really great interest from the public, and due to some news media that one of our local citizens promoted, 11 Alive News and Fox 5 both reported last Thursday night of the situation, and since then people have come out of the woodwork to help, either through financial donations or through vaccinations and animal checks, materials, and just time. And so I just feel really great of how many people came and helped this family. And so I believe to date, I believe they have adopted out, I believe, 9 animals from the property of 37. And I know that Lachey English was the young lady who sort of spearheaded the movement. And I know she is working really hard to try to help more animals to make it to loving homes. Both Brent and I have been working very closely with some of the shelters in the Atlanta metro area, trying to find homes for the rest of the animals. I spent a majority of Friday on the phone with Cobb County, Paulding County, Clayton County, Fulton County, Athens Clark, Hall County, trying to see if shelters had openings for these animals. Some said yes, and then Brent followed up today and made contact with a few more. I just spoke earlier with Deborah Berger, who is with the Humane Society, and she said that the Atlanta Humane Society thought they may have some openings as well soon. So we hope that by the 22nd, which is when Miss Collier's next court date will be, that most, if not all, the animals might be rescued. It took some doing on Brent's part, but he finally got Miss Collier to basically surrender the animals for rescue.
Good job, Brent.
All of them?
All of them, 4.
All the
She
4.
refused to give up 4.
The 4 original. And to me, that's the problem, unfortunately, is that it is her intention, and Ms. Hallbaker can state this, that her intention is to rebreed those animals.
What?
And so,
One of them's too old, but the other 3.
That's how she got into this.
Yeah. So, may I ask at this point, can the judge not state that that is part of,
We all need to be
they
done
have to be
27.
spayed and neutered?
Well,
Can
what,
she do that or no?
my
I mean-
opinion would be that, maybe some who have spoken to Ms. Collier, maybe
Uh-huh.
show up on the 22nd,
Okay.
to serve as witnesses for the county, and that Judge Kavanaugh may then provide some stipulations along with her judgment.
I mean, if it's a money issue, we can spay and neuter the animals for her.
It's not a money issue
It's
at
not a
all.
money
No.
issue.
Not at all.
Okay.
The rescue groups have shown up along with Miss Lachey English. Lachey is a vet tech herself. You know, I think she has personally agreed to pay for it if need be. So that's not an issue. It's honestly, I believe the Miss Collier has some mental issues and honestly needs help.
Do you know if defects went out there?
DFAX has been contacted and there's an open case on that residence. I did speak to the juvenile division of the sheriff's office, CID division, and they are also aware of the situation.
We need to-
Speaking there's a 4-year-old and maybe like a 4-month-old living on the property.
Oh, yeah, I
With her
thought there was
daughter?
just one child, but, yeah, I know there's an infant there.
Yeah.
We should be there for the July 22nd hearing, shouldn't we?
That's your choice, ma'am.
Oh, that's my husband. We should go.
Wow, she wants to breed them again.
Well, it's the daughter.
Yeah.
It's the daughter. I don't know how the mother feels so much about, I mean, but the daughter was like, absolutely not, I am not spaying this dog, and I don't know which one it was, but no. Mm-mm.
We'll see if we can get this spay neuter ordinance passed. When we went out there a year ago originally, we could have made sure that they were fixed.
Yeah. Yep.
And we probably wouldn't be in this boat right now.
Any
That's a
other
good
votes?
point. That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly, but how, are we in, do we have other situations that are brewing in the county also with hoarding situations?
There's one other.
Or
I'm
other
sure
situations?
they're out there,
That we
it's
know.
a pretty county, and a lot of land to cover, and
It's a matter of getting complaints. I mean, we do, you know, this ain't our first rodeo as far as hoarding or cruelty or anything else. You know, we get probably average about 3 to 4 a year, whether it's cats or dogs or, you know, something of the sort.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, like I said, it does help to have the, you know, the ordinance that doesn't allow people to have any more than 4 animals on the property. That does help some. That at least helps sort of start the gear moving forward. You know, I think one of the things that at least got brought to me was, you know, why isn't the county taking a harder stance to this? You know, part of it is that if we did conduct a search and seizure warrant of the house, where would we put them? And that was my first question, a lot of those, because we have very limited space at the shelter, and if we were to do that, that inventory, the dogs, would be basically part of the investigation. We would have to hold them until the case was closed, and if she chose to go to a jury trial, potentially, you know, who knows how long we would have to hold the animals, especially if it would have been a felony case.
So what do other counties do when that happens? I know I've been in several shelters where that they do have holds on them that it specifically says this animal's being held for a case.
Right.
Well, the last big case that we had was a while ago, but we actually had to hold the animal for 3 years
Okay.
Wow.
before it actually was heard because it was a felony. The state come in and made it all felony. It's a dog fighting ring.
So lost its space for 3 years,
3 years.
3 years for
So
that.
that's an animal that we're required to feed and bathe and clean
Right,
for
right,
3
for
years.
3
So
years.
again, you can imagine 37, that would be
Yeah.
half our shelter.
So here's my question, because you know I don't want to put animals down, but we're facing that situation where there is 37 animals and you did have to seize them, how would you end up handling that? You would have to just.
I mean, if we seized them, we would have to hold them, first of all, until the court.
Could you hold them in a temporary position where that we didn't have to use our kennel space? Is that a possibility?
That's probably a possibility, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, just wondering how that would happen. I know with cats, with the hoarding situation that we did, we were able to work with the cats, but if that situation ever came about again, that was the first time first rodeo and don't wanna go back there again, that's just too much for one
Well, the other
individual
part
to
is,
handle.
we ran into this, I talked to the Humane Society about this, is that it's very difficult to find foster homes for
Yes.
animals that are gonna be held, potentially that might be put down in 3 years, potentially after a
Yes,
case.
yes.
And so, just like foster parents, it's
Yeah.
very, very
Very hard.
difficult
Mhm.
to house an animal in that situation.
So she's been in front of Judge Kavanaugh a couple of times.
At least once that I'm aware of, that back in June, she went before for violations, and were given, up until July 1st. The judge gave her till July 1 to mitigate what was going on there. And that's when Officer Andrews was sent back out to reassess, and that's when we realized that things had not changed and that something needed to be done. On July 4th is when, Humane Society and Ms. English all got involved and started to find alternative resources available for her.
So at one point in time, can we get these people involved earlier so that dogs don't have to suffer? Does that make sense?
It
That's what
does.
I'm trying to figure
Right.
out. Where is, because, again, I don't want anybody put to sleep, but I also don't want them living in that filth and that squalor and, eating their young. That's
Yeah.
just not right either.
Well, that's part of the Humane Society. They've agreed to kind of come in and provide some education, some, continuing education for our officers, to help us identify these potential situations. Because again, we have a lot of homeowners who have signs of hoarding, but in the end, our hope is to provide some, counseling of
Right,
sorts.
so they can keep them.
We don't want to escalate the situation
Exactly.
where we go to a felony.
Right. Different solutions.
Yeah,
So
we'll provide
where
solutions
can we
for our
step in
citizens.
a little bit before that, is what I
Right.
was trying to say, just so that we can step in. It's not confiscating the animals, but just
Exactly.
like you said, maybe they don't have the money
Maybe,
to stay
maybe it
and
starts
do
off
it.
with a slap on the wrist, and then it gets
Yeah.
a little harder.
Yeah.
We don't want to go straight chopping off the head.
Yeah,
in the very
exactly,
beginning. So
exactly.
we've got to find some ways to slowly progress the situation.
Okay.
I think if Lachey hadn't been a friend of that family, I mean, who knows what would have happened?
You're right.
They probably wouldn't have trusted any one of us
Anyone
to
to
come out there and.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the reason why I brought that up was I was looking through the Spalding County ordinances and state and county laws concerning hoarding situations and didn't find a whole lot, but when I spoke with Robert this week, because of course that was on his agenda also being here, and it says on here that Spalding County that any animal which is mistreated, beaten, tormented, deprived of water, food, or shelter is kept in unsanitary conditions. So that's where I was wondering about that, because most definitely that's unsanitary conditions, and he said they are fined, and then they're fined, and then they're fined. So that's all I was trying to find out was how we could step in and just help somewhere along the lines without, because it is their private property, and I understand that. Or is there something you can do, or if they say no, you just can't help?
I think it comes down to just the judgment of our officers to make that call of when do we find and when do we help? Initially the idea of the finding is to say, it's just like the thing we talked earlier with Bibb County. They introduced the fine to say, all right, scare tactic, it's time to wake up and get something done. And some just, that never wakes them up. So at that point, we need to recognize that there is something more that we can do, and maybe that is to get a rescue group or a Humane Society involved. And the Humane Society agreed to help us, to understand those tendencies.
On the picture on the bottom left on the press release here, one thing I thought when I saw the place, and I know Gail can back us up, and Brent and Eric as well, it's like a human health threat too, because that gray stuff under that dog, that was in about what, half the pens, and there were flies, and the mud was moving. It was so
Yeah.
populated with insect life, and you can imagine what kind. And
The rats were pretty too.
yes, and we put out rat traps, a bunch of the big ones, and they were right where that 16-year-old dog was, the old dog that barely can stand, jumping in and out, taking his food. So, it's a human concern too. The people that don't care about the dogs as much. what about the neighbors? You know, I'm sure the neighbors didn't appreciate, you know, a giant population of rats running around through the woods and, you know, or if one of these dogs, and they were dog aggressive, several of them, or human aggressive, some of them, what if one of them would have got loose? And
Those kids there.
yeah, and that's what that wire is on the top. If you notice, you look really close, there's a wire above the fence, and that's electrified wire, and that's over all of the kennels, because the dogs, some of them were so hard to handle, you had to keep them in some way.
So was that electric wire already there, or did you guys put it up?
So, we got shocked several times. No, he had a box that he kept turning it off for us, and there's no gate. That was another issue with the cleanup. When Gail was there, she noticed, you know, we couldn't just hop in and clean the muck out. You had to hop in with a ladder, scoop it up, and put it in a barrel.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's why it's so slow. And the other issue, I don't know if I'm allowed to go into it, but we're limited to what days we can go up there. The volunteers.
Thursdays and Sundays are the only days that she allows for people to rescue her animals or help her.
So could have all been done in 1 week, but it's been
Check out what's going
spread out.
on there the rest of those days.
Well, supposedly those are the only days her husband is off work, and so that's the reason why she chose those days. And so, you know, and the talking to a couple of volunteers, and most of the time while they were there, she never even stood up. She just watched them work the whole time. They were out there for hours working and cleaning up her yard, and she never stood up.
She was barking at him a
And
little bit.
without the spay neuter ordinance for nuisance dogs, in another 2 years, we could be right back to the same property with exactly the same issue.
And so they're well aware of this, the commissioners are well aware of this
They are,
situation.
you know, they've been aware from the very beginning. So did Judge Kavanaugh. We kept her abreast of the whole situation. I actually talked to her this morning here in the office, talked to her on Friday. She is well aware.
Okay.
And I think her intention is to take the hard road with her on the 22nd. If no major changes are made, not only to the physical house, but her mentally, as far as the situation goes.
Any other discussion about the state laws, county laws concerning hoarding situations?
No, but I'd like to go to that court.
I think that it's open to anyone.
It is.
It's
It's
open
open
to anyone to
to
go.
any Spalding County citizen, actually, anybody, actually, the American, it's really.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so the 22nd,
Do we know what time?
Usually they're at 2:30. 2:30 is the code ordinance court.
Now, this is a hearing on her tickets. I mean, is there a chance she could plead out ahead of time?
Unless she went and paid the fines beforehand, she could do that, but I feel certain that Judge Kavanaugh wants to see her in court. But what could happen is that she could plead not guilty, and if she does that, then they will forego until a further date and have a bench trial. At the last session, she pled guilty, didn't she, Brent?
I don't know about that, when you plead guilty, that means that you've got to do something, right?
Well, plead guilty basically means that you're giving up your rights, and you're at that point.
Is there any other discussion? There's not really a lot of decisions to be made today. We've got to go and have a workshop, and it's just a couple of hours. I know you can't do it in the morning, correct, because you work. Carrie, do you have any stipulations?
No, I just need a little bit of heads up, just that I'm flexible, I can do anything. I'm just appalled that a situation like that our hands are so tied by the days that's convenient for them. I don't even know what to say about that.
It's kind of limited to what they can get done between now and the 22nd, by only being there a couple of days. But again, because it's her private property and it's her, you have to do whatever she.
I mean,
it's her rights.
Shay had to do this, it was an emergency situation, but in one way, I was like, well, now they're gonna show progress, they're gonna show things have gotten.
Exactly.
And listen, when I got home, I cried the whole time I was there. It was awful.
I didn't go because I was worried about cross-contamination.
I know. It was really so sad to see, and I was upset. I was
You're still upset,
really-
you can hear it.
Yeah.
And the problem's not solved because all the fresh dirt that we put in after we scooped out all the gray, whatever you want to call that substance, it rained last night, so it's mud again. So, you know, it would only take, what, a matter of a week or two for it to get back to, well, less than that for it to get unpleasant for the dogs. I mean, the dogs, Gail saw it, several of them stayed on top of their dog houses the whole time because they didn't want to get in the stuff.
They were just covered
Yeah.
in clay. It
So-
was disgusting.
And
It was
it'll probably
so
rain
sad.
again.
And then when they were carrying them out to the front, I mean, their demeanors, they put them in the pool, gave them a bath. Their demeanors really changed. I mean, they were so different. And then there was a dog fight, like this beautiful big, it was like a hound dog.
It's good.
Yes, beautiful dog. He had his neck all, it was just,
Sarah, a dog fight happened while y'all were there?
I was right, I got there after that, but I saw him.
He went to the vet that day, but it was because the volunteers volunteered
Yeah.
to take him to.
What happened to the dog that couldn't walk, that had the sore leg that was infected?
So third, it would have to be on the
There was
third.
one that they posted that couldn't walk, his leg was infected.
One or two dogs may have gone, I know Gus went to the vet, but I don't know if that other dog went to the vet.
Okay, can everybody look at your calendars and see what your availability is next week? Preferably after, what, 12:30, because you work till 12? Okay. Like 12:30 to 2:30 or something
Pretty
along
open
that
all week
lines?
except for me being.
Daryl, I know you have
Wednesday.
several things that you do, your dog club and different things.
What day are we talking about?
Well, I just wanted you to look at
Next
next week and see what day is available, the best day. I'm pretty open next week. We don't have a lot of spay and neuter clinics next week.
Thursday and Friday, I'm open.
Tuesday's last, we're all gonna be in court,
Is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
or Wednesday.
Wednesday. Want to meet after court?
I don't think it's like cut and dry, is it? It's usually leads on for a couple hours.
No,
How about, how about,
Is it
before
seriously, you go in
court?
at 2:30 and?
How
it's
about-
over with?
Well, there's multiple cases, we'll have.
But they're
you know,
quick.
Fire department, code enforcement, animal control, it'll all be there, and they're just, but usually within an hour, they're done with most of the cases.
Okay,
What if
so
we meet like at 1 o'clock and then we go to court together after?
at 2:30, is that enough time to work? Let's do 12:30. 12:30 work?
Yeah.
All right, 12:30. We'll see if the conference room is available here. If not, then we'll see about, let's see, what day's that? Wednesday? Senior Citizen Center is open on Wednesdays, correct?
It is, but I know on Wednesdays, we normally have a meeting there, at,
Okay.
so it's at 10 o'clock, so you're good. All right.
Well, we also can use the little craft room too. We don't necessarily have to
We
use
have the
conference.
conference room here, we have the HR conference room
Okay, so
back, we
somewhere,
got a conference room
okay. We
upstairs.
got plenty, okay.
And this is the best place because.
Okay,
We
that's
can walk
fine.
across the
Because
street.
it's just across the street from
Right,
the court.
exactly. Just trying to see, a lot of times the room is not available, so. Okay, so let's put the 22nd at 12:30 for the workshop
Here at the annex, right?
here at the annex. In one of the conference rooms, one of them will be available. Well, I will shoot you out an email to let you know that. Okay? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything for open discussion or anything that anyone would like to see on our workshop agenda or our upcoming agenda for August?
I'm just speechless now.
Daryl,
Oh.
David?
Carrie and Amy saved this wonderful little doggy named, what'd you call her,
We
Patience?
call her Patience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you on the news. That was pretty cool.
That was so sad.
Oh, I was very sad too, but that's cool that the dog's safe and going to get its scars on its back safe.
They're doing laser treatment on that dog right now. McDonald Animal Hospital's been wonderful with her. Such a sweet dog, such a sweet dog.
Okay. Gil, do you have anything you'd like to say? Are we ready to adjourn? I make a motion to adjourn our Animal Control Advisory Board meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. We'll see you on the 22nd at 12:30.